Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Advent series this morning on week 3, day 5. Getting closer to week 4 and closer to Christmas. For us in South Africa, it's a public holiday, so we're all having a bit of a rest, which is awesome. And just to celebrate, I'm going to do something completely different this morning. With your blessing, I hope. I will continue with the Bible verses from tomorrow. But I read this blog, this article by a virtual friend of mine, Dr. Cole McColman, who is an international best-selling author and storyteller. And I just thought, this article, although not written for Advent, has the perfect material for reflection in Advent. He has given us these deep questions, which are perfect material for Advent. So I thought I'm going to share this with you today because I found it so profound, and I will certainly be using these questions. I haven't done my prayers yet this morning, but I'm going to. So I'm going to read this article. I do have to extract bits because it's not specifically written for Advent, but that should be easy enough to do. And then what I will do is organize for Mike, my husband, if you are on his circulation list for the parish, he's going to send you the full article that you can read, print, keep, whatever you want to do. If you are not on his list, I will also put a link to this article as best I can. I'm not sure how to do it on YouTube, but I will find out. And it will also go on other circulation lists that I have, I guess. So hopefully you will all get a copy. If you don't, please find me, Elaine Fourie 1952 at gmail.com. Elaine Fourie 1952 at gmail.com, and I'll happily send you the link. Right, let's begin. In the Christian tradition, it is said that the only true spiritual director is the Holy Spirit. The Spirit, who is poured into each of our hearts, provides the ultimate compass. If you remember yesterday, we talked about the Spirit coming into our hearts at baptism, for guiding us more and more fully and deeply into the felicity of God's presence, love, mercy, and care. What we do in prayer during Advent is we hold a sacred space where the intimacy of God's love may emerge more fully into our hearts. Isn't that a lovely picture? So the questions that Carl has given us this morning that I find so appropriate for Advent are the following. You might want to jot them down if you can, otherwise you will be getting the link. Firstly, who is God and who is God to you? And secondly, who are you and who are you in relation to God? Say them again. Who is God and who is God to you? And secondly, who are you and who are you in your relationship with God? Beautiful questions. Anyone hoping for a meaningful relationship with God must grapple with both of these questions for your sense of self and for your sense of God. Sometimes referred to as the image of God. But to be honest with you, I don't like that reference because image is very superficial. I think that our relationship with God is very profound, very complex, very deep and personal. It simply isn't a flat image. So, if we are hoping for a meaningful relationship with God, we must grapple with these questions, and they will shape and impact how they understand and experience their spiritual journey. So, they will shape and impact how we understand our spiritual journey. So, here's something very interesting, and something that will probably become the core of your reflections on these questions. If you believe God is punishing and wrathful, what kind of relationship will you have with God? Probably one that is very guarded and self-armored, and you might subconsciously be doing all you can to keep God at arm's length. Now, as a psychologist, I can tell you that many people who have an angry, abusive experience from their parent, in this case their male parent, they will have this image of God because he is presented to us as a father, and they will often say, when you are trying to get close to them spiritually, that they have a very bad concept of the idea of a father, and so they are not going to come close to God if he's a father. And they will keep God at arm's length, as Carl says here. On the other hand, if deep down inside you see yourself as fundamentally unlovable, then this will also affect your capacity to be truly vulnerable and available for God's love to flow in your life. And this is something that I have had personal experience with. I have not seen myself as special in any way. And it was only my spiritual journey that actually showed me that in God's eyes, I am extremely precious and extremely valuable, and that God loves me with an absolutely overwhelming and certain love. And he does that for all of us. But for some of us, like myself, that wasn't an easy journey. But can you imagine how incredibly fulfilling and wonderful it was to be able to open my heart and to surrender to receiving God's love flowing freely and abundantly within my heart. Can you imagine? And I can promise you that was the most wonderful experience that changed my life. Can I just say here, folks, I have done some spiritual direction. I have been a psychologist for many years, and I am educated in theology. So if anybody wants to walk this journey with a little bit of support, and you're welcome to contact me, and we'll set something up in the new year. The other thing that you can do is you can join in my centering prayer sessions on Zoom, which I will also start in the new year if there's enough demand, and that actually allows you to do this reflection in a supported and community environment. So those two things, if you want spiritual direction and emotional support, or if you want to start doing centering prayer, very easy, nothing to worry about, then you can let me know. If you are afraid of Zoom and you feel conspicuous, all you have to do is switch off your video, and people can't see you, but you will be there and you'll hear everything, and you'll be able to participate verbally. So bear that in mind. Okay. The deep work of prayer and meditation and contemplation, or centering prayer, is what we are wanting to do in order to reflect deeply on these questions. And they are nothing more than creating a space to sit quietly in God's presence. And if you do have an abusive background or a lot of psychological and emotional pain, I would recommend to you that you do this in a supportive community or with a spiritual director, because stuff comes up for you to resolve, and that can be difficult sometimes. But don't be afraid of it, and don't rob yourself of that incredible experience that I had when I was able to sort out all my demons, as Teresa of Avila calls them, and just become an open and vulnerable person supported by God's love. Don't rob yourself of that because the pathway might be a bit rocky. Truly, I'm here to help you, and Mike is here to help you, those who are in the parish. Don't rob yourself of that. So the deep work of prayer will continually lead to new insights into places where we all need healing, and our image of God might need changing. The other things that he tells us to reflect on, which are all connected to these first two questions, is who is this God who is calling you into relationship with him? Who is he? Who is he to you? You wouldn't jump into a relationship with anybody unless you knew who they were. So reflect on this. How do you experience God? How does God live with you day by day, and what is that experience like? What do you know about God? How much do you know about God? Is there something you need to do? Scriptural reading, prayer, listening to podcasts, or reading blogs on spiritual nature, or spiritual books? And if you want to read, let me know. I can certainly direct you to some very good books. So who is this God who is calling you? How do you experience him? And what do you know about him? Is God's sense of who you are consistent with your self-image? So that's really important, because if there is a break between how you see yourself and how God sees you, then you have a journey to go on. You have a healing journey to embark on. Because God sees you as exquisitely lovable. And if you don't see yourself the same way, you are missing out completely on what he has to offer you. Is there something difficult or painful in your life that you are running away from, that you're not quite ready to face? Do you have one or more active addictions? Now, an addiction can be drugs or alcohol, but it doesn't have to be. My most recent addiction is crochet. And I could just sit in the chair all day and crochet my slippers that I'm selling, and be perfectly happy and not bother to do anything to look after Mike or the people around me. I could just carry on. But of course, that's not something that's good for me. Crochet is good for me in the sense that if I do it for an hour in between my writing work, it relaxes me and it refreshes my mind. But if I sit there and it's got me, the relationship is the other way around. The crochet does not serve me, it's got me in its grasp and it won't let me go, and that's an addiction. Okay, so you could be addicted to TV, you could be addicted to chocolate, you could be addicted to love, but not the right kind of love. And then, of course, there are these other addictions that are destructive to your life. If you are on drugs or alcohol, even they will certainly destroy your relationships right up front, and eventually they will kill you if you are taking drugs, alcohol, or those kinds of hard addictions. Don't let them do that to you. God is here, waiting to help you. If you do have any of these addictions, are you willing to do what it takes to recover from them? Are any of your relationships broken, including your relationship with yourself? Are you happy, peaceful, joyful? If not, what resources can you tap into to bring more felicity, serenity, and joy into your life? Well, you look at one of those resources, and there are many others. Where do you hurt spiritually as well as physically? What do you want? What do you really want at the deepest level of your heart? And what sacrifices are you willing to make in order to get what you want? Do you want God? Do you want God at the deepest level of your heart? And what are you prepared to do to have Him, to have that greatest gift of all? These questions are just a start, but Advent is the start of re-establishing a relationship with God. But all of them are meant to inspire discernment, in other words, choice. They are thoughtful, mindful, heart-centered reflections on where we are and where we believe we are called to go. So I'm only going to go that far. And I've used a lot of time, so I'm not going to go through it again, but I will sort of summarize for you. I just want to tell you about Coleman. He's a soul friend and a storyteller and a lay Cistercian catechist, author, blogger, podcaster, speaker, teacher, and retreat leader. There you go. What's not much left out there. So just to summarize, remember you will have this whole article. The first questions that lead to all the other questions: who is God, and who is God to you? Who are you, and who are you to God? Okay, we need to answer these questions to have a relationship with God. Your image of God that you have grown up with may be wrong. It may be hurtful and painful. You need to reflect on that so that you can change it. God is the good Father. I don't want to go into too much. Look at your addictions, whether they are hard addictions or soft addictions. Addictions simply take our time away from God. Take us away from God. They're getting away. Crochet, when I should be praying, takes me away from God. You'll be reflecting on all your hurts and your pain, and through meditation, centering prayer, contemplation, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to do, but it should be deeper. Just to learn that Christ is fine will bring you to where you want to be in relationship with Christ. And that is what we want to do during Advent. I hope you found that interesting. It certainly helped me a great deal, and I am certainly going to put it into practice. Okay? And perhaps I'll be able to share some experiences with you, depending on what God does with me. And maybe you want to share your experiences with me. So I reiterate, Elaine Fourie 1952 at gmail.com. Love to hear from you, and thank you so much for being with me today. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and give you his peace. Amen. See you tomorrow.